Oh, I don't see. Yeah. What type of music do you have there? Go, go.
What's this? See, you can put your bands and we're going to start now. This one here too. This one here. Yeah. Down at the bottom, put them together and see if you can do it. I know. Yeah. You ready to start? One radio?
Yeah, I'm going to call you now, but
It's 10 o'clock. Right. Could you kindly stand as we welcome the Honorable Premier? A pleasant morning to everyone. I bid you welcome to November's edition of the Premier's monthly press conference. This, indeed, is the final press conference for 2025. It seems like yesterday that we welcomed you to 2025's first press conference. But as the saying goes, time waits for no one. This morning's press conference will be conducted as follows. The Premier will give updates from the ministries, from the departments, and from the units, after which members of the press corps will be given the opportunity to ask their questions. In doing so, we kindly ask you to give your name and the organization, the media house that you represent, just in case we have to give follow-up information to you at a later date. You're kindly asked to turn your phones off or to put them on vibrate if it is convenient. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much to Permanent Secretary. And as he indicated, this is indeed our last press conference for 2025. We tend to cut off in November because, of course, we go into budget debates and discussions in December, and those budget debates and discussions occur here on the island of Nevis and also on our sister island of St. Kitts at the national level. Let me start by sending an announcement, please, to all non-nationals out there who require a work permit. I am to advise you that the Premier's Ministry is indicating that renewal of your status for 2026 has already commenced. The applicable renewal forms can be collected at the Work Permits Office, that is right here at the Social Security Building at Pinners, and early application is necessary to avoid late fees. Additionally, we continue to make an appeal to non-nationals who are currently out of status. That is, you are undocumented, you have not done what you're supposed to do, to visit the Premier's Ministry to update yourself. As we always say, we work with our non-national community very closely to ensure that you're not prejudiced, but we also require that you adhere to the law. And so please go into the Premier's Ministry and regularize your status. Too many continue to stay here and work here illegally. And then when problems develop, they rush and they come in and they start to ask for a favor. Please do what is right. Go to the office, regularize your status. The good people there are always willing to work with you. And so if there is a need, even for a payment plan, we will do that. But we encourage you, please, to do the right thing. Please take along your passports and other supporting documentation. So, please get regularized. That's important. I have, ladies and gentlemen, quite a bit of information to share, as this is our final press conference for 2025. And I want to start with the Film Commission and the work that we've been doing in the area of film and film production on the island of Nevis. I feel particularly proud that we have created something from nothing in relation to film. I feel particularly proud that when we first spoke to this, there were, as usual, the naysayers who said it could not happen. But if we listen to those naysayers, then we would not get there. I saw a quote recently attributed, they told me, to Henry Ford, who, as we know, did much to revolutionize the automobile industry. And Henry Ford said if he asked people in his day what they wanted, their response would have been a faster horse. The simple point is that that is what they knew. They knew that they got around on a horse, and so they wanted a faster horse. And so he decided that he would instead revolutionize the automobile. Today, of course, we know all about cars, and the fast horses are on the track. They are not being used for transportation quite in the same way. I say that to say this, that we are oftentimes confronted with the need to innovate and the need to create new streams of business and new streams of economic activity in our little island. And it was in the very heart of COVID that the cabinet sat and decided that we would make a go at a film industry. Since then, dating back to 2020, if I recall, we have proceeded in the last 5 years to do, I think, some extraordinary things. And I just want to give you a snapshot of what we've done just this year. I want to mention Autumn Federici and Ninth House Films. Earlier this month, Autumn Federici of Ninth House Films, a Hollywood-based production company, visited Nevis for an extensive location scout. Ninth House Films has built a strong reputation in the industry, earning nominations from several major awards bodies, including the Critics' Choice Awards, the Hollywood Critics' Choice Association Television Awards, the Imagine Foundation, and the Women's Image Network. The company, Ninth House Films, has confirmed that they will return to Nevis in 2026 to shoot a full-length romance feature film. That production in 2026 will star Taye Diggs, widely known for his leading role in that film, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, opposite Angela Bassett. And so this is an announcement that we're making, that through our collaboration with Autumn Federici and her production house, Ninth House Films, we will be seeing a full-length romance movie in 2026 starring Taye Diggs. 516 Films, led by actor and filmmaker Sarafina King, is currently on Nevis shooting a full-length romance film. This production has created notable opportunities for local talent, featuring 10 local speaking roles. Local actors include Michael Henville, Patrick Howell, Denise Gordon, and Jervon Swanston. The film is showcasing Nevis's landscapes and cultural charm, with scenes shot at key locations such as the Artisan Village and Lovers Beach. That's number 2. Number 3, Pan Girl world premiere. The short film Pan Girl, directed by and starring Juliet Jeffers, will hold its red carpet world premiere this Friday at 7 p.m. at the Nevis Performing Arts Center, NEPAC. The film also stars Hadassah Daniel and Winston Crook, and was shot on Nevis in May, with all but 2 cast members being local actors. Now, Juliet Jeffers, of course, is a daughter of Nevis, and she has given back repeatedly in terms of acting classes and otherwise. She has now come and she's done a short film called Pan Girl, and the stars are Hadassah Daniel and Winston Crook. Pan Girl tells a heartfelt story of a young Nevisian girl who discovers a passion for the steel pan despite her mother's disapproval. The premiere promises to be a complete cultural experience. That is this Friday at 7 p.m., featuring live pan music, a question and answer session with the main cast, a chance to win a Cape Air flight between Nevis and St. Thomas, a one-night stay at Mount Nevis Hotel, and a complimentary acting class by Juliet Jeffers herself. Cocktails, a mix and mingle reception. Tickets are $20 EC for adults and $10 for children, payable at the door. And so we really invite Nevisians to go out and support what we're seeking to do in terms of film. And this will be at 7 p.m. this Friday at NEPAC. Number 4, PBS. I'm sure members of the press are all familiar with PBS, Public Broadcasting System. I believe that's what it means. And they do something called Hometowns. And they will have a production team here arriving next week to film 2 special international episodes of the series Hometowns. The series typically features towns across Virginia, but Nevis will be the first international location in the history of this program. The episodes will highlight Nevis's culture, history, artisans, and community leaders, featuring conversations which include Greg Phillip of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society on Alexander Hamilton's Nevisan roots, Deborah Tyrrell on fabric art and the Charleston Gallery, Mackie Truss and the Coconut Festival, our own Llewellyn Sunshine Keynes, owner of the iconic Sunshine's Bar and Grill, home of, as we know, of the famous Killer Bee, James Weeks discussing development and success of Nevis swim clubs, and Marvin Chapman, known for his distinctive stone art. Both episodes to be filmed here are scheduled to air on PBS Network in February 2026, offering again major exposure for the island of Nevis. That's number 4. Number 5. I am proud to report that we are seeing now the launch of the Nevis Behind the Scenes production company. Nevis's growing film industry has inspired the launch of a new local business, Nevis Behind the Scenes production company, founded by Mrs. Vanessa Allen. Vanessa brings strong expertise as both a hospitality professional and a former member of the MSR media team. Her company will serve as the island's local fixer, handling casting of actors and background talent, coordination with caterers, taxi drivers, and rental providers, securing film locations, managing day-to-day production logistics and administrative needs. This ensures that Nevisians directly benefit from incoming productions, with each project typically hiring 10 to 30 local workers. The creation of this company marks an important step in establishing a sustainable, locally anchored film ecosystem. So again, that I think is incredibly important. That was update number 5. Update number 6, Travel Noir Media Feature. The Film Commission and the CEO of the NTA were recently interviewed by Travel Noir, a global travel and media brand focused on the experiences and perspectives of black travelers. Travel Noir is known for its storytelling, curated travel journeys, and its influence in shaping travel trends among young, diverse audiences. Their interest was sparked by the Real Housewives of Potomac, who recently filmed 3 episodes in Nevis. During the interview, Travel Noir explored the locations visited by the housewives, the activities they participated in, Nevis's positioning as a luxury boutique destination, and how tourism and film production work together to elevate Nevis's profile on the global stage. I would want to commend the excellent work of the Nevis Film Commission and, of course, the vision of this government to create this film industry. It is growing, people are taking notice, and what I've just given is merely a snapshot of what we've been able to do already this year. Let me segue now to our efforts in terms of tourism. As you know, still the most important industry on the island of Nevis. Nevis has officially unveiled its Destination Nevis Integrated Marketing Plan for 2026, a strategic blueprint that positions the island as the Caribbean's leading boutique luxury destination. This plan brings a unified, global-facing narrative that elevates Nevis's heritage, authenticity, and naturally refined luxury. It lays out a defined roadmap to strengthen our visibility, improve competitiveness, and ensure every market touchpoint reflects our premium identity. This is not business as usual. it is Nevis asserting its rightful place among the world's most sought-after luxury destinations. I am also pleased to report that we have recently been a part of the launch of 4 Islands, 1 Escape, 6 distinct experiences. On October 31st, Nevis joined regional partners to launch an innovative multi-island travel experience powered by Makana Ferry. Launch events spanned St. Martin, Saba, St. Eustatius, and culminated in St. Kitts, elevating regional connectivity and strengthening our shared tourism ecosystem. Forgive me. Nevis is part of a forward-thinking movement that champions collaboration, not competition, in regional tourism. And I want to emphasize that what Nevis has been promoting and talking about is saying, how can we collaborate? Too often the conversation has been about competition. We are now saying, how can we collaborate? How can we get the guests that's in Statia or Saba to take the Makana Ferry and come to Nevis? Or to get the Nevision guests to go to St. Martin using that ferry? How can we get the guest who is in St. Bart's but wants to play golf to fly over to Nevis for a day trip to play golf? We're talking about partnerships and collaboration, not the old model of competition. And we think by doing so, we will strengthen regional partnerships. We are strengthening those regional partnerships, and recently we would have, as part of that launch, hosted delegates from Dutch St. Martin, Saint Martin, Saba, and Statia. On November 2nd, Nevis hosted a 24-member tourism delegation from Dutch St. Martin, French Saint Martin, St. Eustatius, Saba, and the operator owner's Makana Ferry. These strategic conversations explored expanded partnership for joint marketing and inter-island travel. Nevis is making its presence felt, taking a leadership role in shaping the future of multi-island Caribbean tourism. These engagements build the foundation for broader visibility and shared prosperity. Let me update now on our cruise season. Our cruise season has started. We officially opened our season on November 15th with a strong increase to 69 confirmed cruise calls for the 2025-2026 season, up from 54 the previous year, recording a 27.7% increase in calls. This represents more than growth. It signals renewed interest in Nevis as a boutique port destination for small luxury vessels. The increase demonstrates that the global market is responding positively to our elevated brand positioning. We are becoming the quiet luxury stop that discerning cruise travelers are searching for. We have decided, ladies and gentlemen, that as part of our overall effort, that we had to modernize the accommodation and facilities at the Nevis Tourism Authority. And so I am to report that that internal construction process is ongoing. We have, I believe, completed the downstairs. We are now turning our attention to the upstairs. And as part of that, effective Monday, 17th November, the NTA Visitor Center was temporarily located to the Henville building to allow continued critical renovation work at the main office. This renovation is part of a wider transformation to equip the authority with a modern, efficient, and high-performing environment. We are investing in the infrastructure required to operate at the level expected of a world-class tourism authority. The future of the NTA is modern, agile, and strategically aligned with global standards. I'm also happy to report, members of the press, that we have launched our winter campaign, dubbed Winter Reimagined. On November 5th, we launched our digital brand awareness campaign, Winter Reimagined, which runs until March 31st of next year. The campaign has already secured international exposure in numerous outlets such as Travel Weekly, Latte, Luxury News, and Caribbean Journal. The campaign reinforces Nevis's core message. Nevis offers winter luxury, redefined, authentic, intimate, and timeless. We are using data-driven digital marketing to put Nevis in front of high-value travelers across the US and Canada predominantly. Let me also report that we welcome the news that Winair has now expanded its flights between St. Martin and Nevis to a daily service. You would recall, ladies and gentlemen, that they only offered the service hitherto on weekends. The service is now going to be a daily service effective November 3rd. The NTA has launched a targeted campaign promoting Winair's seamless interline connections with JetBlue, United, KLM, British Airways, and Air France, making it easier than ever to reach Nevis. This is a major breakthrough in improving accessibility and strengthening the visitor pipeline from global hubs. Now, why is St. Martin so important? It is important because it is the busiest airport, Juliana, among the neighboring airports. It has the most points of access because, for example, you can fly directly from Juliana to Amsterdam. You can fly directly from Juliana to Paris. And you can fly directly from Juliana to many parts in the United States. So while St. Kitts will continue to be our primary hub, we feel that having options out of St. Martin is also useful. And Winair's flight is very convenient. It leaves here in the morning, and that allows you therefore to connect with virtually all of the international flights leaving St. Martin, which tend to leave St. Martin just after midday, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think this is actually an excellent, excellent development for us. We are committed in Nevis to dispel the notion that Nevis is hard to reach. We must continue to work at airlift and work at accessibility. People want to come, we must find ways that they can come. So we thank Winair for the partnership, and we look forward to even greater things as we build out our airport infrastructure in the near future. Let me say a word about the Tourism Development Levy. As you know, this is a yardstick that we keep using just to try and gauge how we're doing in terms of tourism. You would realize that we went into the House recently and we increased the Tourism Development Levy from 2% to 3%. And that was intended to fund the increased activities of the Nevis Tourism Authority. Of course, the proceeds from that tax are used to fund our marketing efforts for the island. And I have some comparisons because I think it's important. In November 2023, when we were collecting at a rate of 2%, we collected $68,299.07. In November 2024, when again we were collecting at a rate of 2%, we collected $99,346 from the TDL. In 2025, for November this year, we are now collecting at 3%, but we have seen the TDL jump now to a collection of $236,032.69. So I just wanted to demonstrate through the numbers how we are transitioning. So 2023, the November collection at 2%, $68,000. 2024, same 2%, $99,000. 2025, this is only for the month of November. Well, that is the month of October, but paid in November. We are now charging 3%, but it has jumped now to $236,032.69. The November numbers for 2025 reflect a transformational jump in TDL revenue. While the shift from 2 to 3% would naturally have driven part of the increase, the data clearly shows strong real performance growth even after adjusting for the rate. The destination is outperforming prior years, both in rate normalized revenue and absolute yields. This signals robust market demand, stronger average pricing, and improved reporting compliance. As part and parcel of all that we're doing, we are clearly in the media internationally. And recent international coverage has amplified Nevis's profile. Outlets such as Travel Weekly, Islands Magazine, Yahoo Life, and The Times have praised Nevis's natural beauty, world-class hotels, boutique beaches, and unique charm. These features highlight what we already know, that Nevis is one of the Caribbean's most extraordinary islands, offering experiences rooted in authenticity and elegance. The global travel media is rediscovering Nevis, and we are ensuring that that momentum continues to grow. Let me say a word about our Mango Festival, global visibility, regional showcase. The Nevis Mango Festival continues to receive international acclaim, most recently being highlighted in Forbes as a standout Caribbean culinary celebration. On November 16th, the Nevis Mango Festival was proudly showcased at the Hook and Harvest event in Anguilla, where our local chef, Aaliyah Keynes, represented Nevis in offering a 10-course dining experience to those in attendance. She prepared a delectable mango-infused entree and dessert that demonstrated Nevisian culinary talent at its finest, and invited attendees of the event to the Nevis Mango Festival 2026. The Nevis Mango Festival continues to be one of our strongest cultural ambassadors, elevating Nevis's culinary identity across the region and internationally. And incidentally, I take it as a badge of honor that I was the minister that introduced the Mango Festival to Nevis. I'm hopeful that whoever comes next will continue to promote that as a premier event, and that years from now, 20, 30 years, this could be one of the biggest events in the region. Nevis, ladies and gentlemen, is not waiting to be discovered. We are claiming our place on the global stage. From improved airlift, improved planning, strategic partnerships, global media visibility, elevated product offerings, the NTA is implementing an aggressive, coordinated strategy to secure Nevis's position as the Caribbean's premier boutique luxury destination. Our actions speak clearly. Nevis is rising, Nevis is ready, and Nevis is stepping confidently into her next chapter. Let me now move forward and look at some other areas of the government. The Labor Department. We would have recently hosted in St. Kitts and Nevis the Canada-Caribbean Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program. This is an agreement and arrangement between foreign countries to provide seasonal workers under the Commonwealth Workers Program between Canadian farmers and governments of Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. They recently descended on St. Kitts for their annual retreat, and this was held at the Marriott between November 10th to 14th. About 60 delegates visited the island. These included Caribbean delegates and Canadian officials and Canadian farm employers. On the 14th of November, Nevis hosted a delegation. Activities here included visits to some historical sites, like the Nevis Hydro Garden, Nevis's Heritage Village, Bath Stream, Pinnis Beach, and I believe that they were also at the Heritage Village. Did I say that? Yes. Bath Stream and Pinnis Beach. And then on the 15th of November, interested applicants from Nevis attended a meeting with the Eastern Caribbean Liaison Service at the Solid Waste Conference Room in St. Kitts. The applicants were given an overview of the program and were afforded the opportunity as to questions and to interact with other workers who were previously attached to the program. The Canadian officials informed that in the near future they will be looking towards fish production. Now, why do I mention this? I mention this because there may be people here who are interested in going to Canada to be a part of that farm workers program. We have had some in the past, and some people might be interested to get the experience. Why I like the program is that as we make a greater push for our own food security, people can pick up important skill sets that they can then bring back and implement here on the island of Nevis. The officials did complain, I'm told, that not many Nevisians are taking up the opportunity to go and do this work. And I said to them, perhaps tongue-in-cheek, that is because in Nevis there's so many jobs available that people don't have to go to Canada to find work. So they will have to offer, I think, a bit more to some to encourage them. But if there are young persons here who want to know a bit more about agriculture, to see how agriculture performs in other countries, then this seasonal program is an excellent opportunity. Public Works, I want to say to my good constituents in the Brown Pasture area that the road that leads up to Morgan Estate is being done in 3 phases. We have completed phase 1, approximately 700 feet. Phase 2 is currently ongoing, that's 640 feet. We had a setback from recent rains, but I'm told that up to 60% of that is already done. And then, of course, we'll complete the balance of that. The Public Works Department is also continuing work at the supply office. We are wrapping up there now and expect to be out of there in short order. We are also doing some extensive work at the Nevis Craft House to make that facility more fit for purpose. We've also at the Public Works just completed works at the Agricultural Department repair shop at Prospect, where they constructed a concrete ramp leading up to the vehicle repair shed. They also built a concrete foundation pad to house a water storage tank. And if you are traveling along the Island Main Road, as I do often, you will see that we're doing some drainage upgrade works in the area of Men's Restaurant and following. So we'll be clearing out those water passages, guts we call them, and ensuring that we are prepared in the event of torrential rainfall, that the rainwater goes through the appropriate channels. And so we are continuing to show up our drainage capacity. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that a lot of this time we take these things for granted, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that you don't see the type of flooding in Nevis that you see elsewhere. You don't see the type of erosion and damage and difficulty. That is not by chance. It is by planning. It is the fact that the Public Works Department has been very astute in developing a program for drains, for drainage, and for ensuring that the island is in a constant state of readiness. This is what we do for us. The Nevis Disaster Management Department would have attended the St. Eustatius Oil Spill Workshop and Training, 12 to 13 November 2025, and we had a 10-member delegation from St. Kitts and Nevis that attended, including Coast Guard participation in that very important engagement. The Nevis Disaster Management is continuing its community-based training sessions for volunteers interested in joining the Nevis Community Emergency Response CERT team. These sessions provide valuable instruction in disaster management, psychological trauma care, fire safety, search and rescue, first aid, and CPR. Training has already been successfully completed in the parishes of St. Paul, St. Thomas's, St. James, and St. George. The next series of sessions for the parish of St. John will be held from Monday 1st December to Wednesday 10th December, beginning at 5 p.m. daily. So if you're from St. John and you're interested, please, we ask you to call the Nevis Disaster Management 469-1423 or 664-8806 to register. The U.S. Southcom Minimal Cost Project, I'm pleased to announce that the Nevis Disaster Management Department is the recipient of U.S. $24,500, a grant from the United States Southern Military Command, the U.S. Southcom Minimum Cost Project. The funds were allocated for the procurement of essential items and services in support of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. Culturama. We know Carnival is in the air, but we are also still preparing for Culturama 52. It will be celebrated from July 23rd to August 4th, 2026. I am told to remind you that registration remains open for the senior pageants. These include Miss Culture, Queen Show, Miss Culture Swimwear, Mr. Cool, and deadline for registration ends on December 12th. So those members of the press here who are minded to enter, the registration ends on December 12th. Registration is also open for Mr. and Miss Talented Youth Pageant. Deadline is January 16th. And of course, we expect all of our schools to participate as we look for full participation in these very important national events. Application forms can be collected from and returned to the Culturama Secretariat located at the Cotton Ginnery Mall, or you can go to www.culturamanevis.com. We would have had World Fisheries Day and a month of activities to celebrate World Fisheries. dating from the 2nd to the 28th of November, so those activities are still ongoing. And they have been, I think, very robust in terms of their outreach, in terms of inviting the public to engage. And they've asked me to indicate to you that we are now, of course, licensing fishing vessels, and the licensing periods: 1st to 2nd December, Charlestown, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 3rd December, Jessops and Cotton Ground Fishermen, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 4th and 5th December, Jones Bay, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 8th and 9th December, Newcastle, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 10th December, Long Haul Bay, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And 11th December, Indian Castle, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can contact 469-5521, extension 6513 or 6514. We are asking you please to do that in order to get your fishing vessel registered. I am also asked to announce that we're going to have a lionfish hunt. You all remember some time ago we were very concerned about the invasive species, which is the lionfish. But people found out apparently that they're very good food. They're very tasty. So we're hunting lionfish. It starts on December 6th. You're weighing at 12 p.m. and they're having a big event there. Free registration. Greenhouse band will be there. Prizes for the most, the largest, and the smallest lionfish caught. Because it's an invasive species, you can catch them small, you can catch them medium, you can catch them large. Once you catch them, we want them out of the sea. So we can definitely go out and this lionfish hunt. But lionfish is very tasty. I've had it myself, and I encourage persons to go out and to support. Let me switch, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ministry of Education, and more specifically, the area of sport. You would recall, members of the press, that some years ago, this government introduced swimming into our schools and swimming into our community. It was an initiative that really paid homage to the victims of this Christina disaster, and paid homage to the fact that since then there has been a collective trauma on this island. There has been a collective fear of the ocean, and many people in a small island like ours, surrounded as it is by ocean, cannot swim. And so we thought that it was an important initiative, because swimming, we know, is great exercise, but it's also a way to keep people occupied. It's also a way to save lives, because if there is any marine disaster, ferry disaster, that our people would be better equipped to get to safety. And so we introduced swimming, partnered with persons overseas, but an offshoot of that has now been competitive swimming. So once we started swimming, we soon realized that there's some young people who were actually excellent at swimming. And so the St. Kitts Nevis Aquatics Federation was formed to try and make swimming now a formal sport within the federation. I, again, think that the Nevis Island administration should get some credit. They say if you don't toot your own horn, nobody's going to toot it for you. And the reason I say that is because that whole idea of swimming and formalizing arrangements, private-public sector partnerships, started here on Nevis. And that is why when we see a team that is going abroad to represent St. Kitts and Nevis now, it is predominantly Nevisian swimmers who are going, because we have had a formal program in Nevis for some time. Well, the St. Kitts Nevis Aquatics Federation, they recently participated in the OECS Swimming Championship in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they performed phenomenally. There were some outstanding individual performances. Bear in mind that we're new to this, huh? We're new to this. Tiadrian Truss, they call him Tigger or Tiger. Is it Tigger or Tiger they call him? But Tiadrian Truss. He got gold in the 50-meter breaststroke, silver in the 100-meter and 200-meter freestyle, and bronze in the 100-meter individual medley. And with a name like Tiger, I believe that they maybe should call him Fish, because he's performing admirably in the water. But he has the kind of name that I think we're going to hear more about this youngster. Edith Den, she got gold in the 100-meter freestyle, silver in the 100-meter individual medley. Skylar Connor, got bronze in the 400-meter freestyle. Jennifer Harding, Marlin, got bronze in the 100-meter breaststroke. And so we say congratulations to them. This is the first time that we've gone to the OECS Championship and performed this way. Great things are happening in swimming. St. Kitts and Nevis Anguilla National Bank Primary School's football tournament that would have come to an end. It was wildly successful. And I'm told that the St. Thomas's Primary School won again, back-to-back champions. So we congratulate St. Thomas's, the school, the students, the principal, the fan base, the parents, everybody. St. Thomas's were again crowned champions. But there were some individual outstanding performances. The finals player of the game was Aiden Jack from the St. Thomas's Primary School. Outstanding female footballer was Ronnie Isles, also from St. Thomas's Primary. Young and upcoming footballer was Marvin Hamilton Jr. from the St. Thomas's Primary. Fair Play Award went to the Nevis Academy. Best goalkeeper was Tydra Clark from Joyston Liebert Primary. Best defender, Jevon Matthew from Joyston Liebert Primary. The top goal scorer, 14 goals, was Jamali Kelly from Joyston Liebert Primary. The most valuable player was Ezekiel Dickinson from the St. Thomas's Primary. And the regular season champions were the Joyston Liebert Primary. So we had some tremendous overall performances. Fourth place was my alma mater, Ivor Walters. Third place, Charlestown Primary. Second place, Joyston Liebert Primary. And the champions again, St. Thomas's Primary. The ministry also stood by its commitment to distributing all revenue collected at the gates for games back to the participating schools. So we take this opportunity to thank the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank and all of the other stakeholders for their continued support. And let me emphasize again, the little money you paid to go in the park was collected and it has been distributed to the schools so that you understand the schools are the beneficiaries of that. We also, as part of the rollout of a whole new thrust in sports, we had the Queen of the Court Netball Series, and that netball series was intended to rekindle and revive netball in our schools. The idea really is to promote the growth and visibility of netball while providing a platform for young players to showcase their talents. It is part of an overall push that we're seeing from the Ministry of Sports. Under 14 individual awards, finals player of the match, Shondell Freeman and Janisha Maynard. The best shooter was Ariel Herbert. Best center court player, Janisha Maynard. Most valuable player, Jakima Harvey. Best defensive player, Jevonique Hamilton. Fair Play Award went to Jessenique Dorr. And open individual awards, finals player of the match, Decoya Mills and Dorniqua Elliott. Best shooter, Divine James. Best center court player, Decoya Mills. Most valuable player, Devin James. Best defensive player, Tanika Jeffers. And Fair Play Award went to Divine James. The games were contested between the Charleston Secondary School and the Gingerland Secondary School in two categories, under 14 and open. The Charleston Secondary School won both categories, but the biggest winner was netball. Secondary schools football, we have seen the primary school football taking off. We now want it at the secondary school. Incidentally, I hope members of the press and the public understands the process and the program. They used to say that Nevis people could only play cricket and all the football was in St. Kitts. So we are now saying to St. Kitts, we want to catch up with you and we want to catch up with the rest of the region in football. So we are starting football at the grassroots level with our primary schoolers, but we're also now having football in the high schools. And so we had running simultaneously with the secondary schools netball was the secondary schools football series, and that was played between GSS and CSS. Most valuable player was LeJohn Jeffers of CSS. Most goals, Lyndall Abram of CSS. Best defender, Adrian Williams of CSS. Best goalkeeper, Corwin Wilkin of CSS. Fair Play Award went to CSS, and the champions were CSS. So Gingerland, you have some work to do in that regard. But what we are pleased to see is that football is now coming back and is again part and parcel of the range of sporting activities that are being offered. Let me switch to Youth Month 2025. Youth Month is currently being celebrated on the theme Youth in Tech, Shaping What's Next. And they would have had a number of activities, including some emphasis on TVET. They also had something called a parent workshop on December 2nd, that will happen on December 2nd, and that is Parents and Artificial Intelligence Readiness Seminar. And I believe that that's very important. They're trying to ready parents about artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence works. They also have some common training workshops. We're encouraging people to get involved and to register. The Art in Motion Animation Lab, that takes place from December 9th to 16th. And then we have the Creators Playbook Workshop facilitated by Cashmere Evelyn Nisbet of Food for Cash, which will take place on December 18th and 19th. These are all open to young people. So we encourage young people to get involved. Let me switch to the most remarkable teens, 25 most remarkable teens. I want to go on record to congratulate all 25 remarkable teens, but to single out, of course, our 5 Division teens, Miss Nyla Taylor, who won the award in technology, Miss Jadini Herbert, scholar athlete, Miss Ajane Hodge, academics and youth activism, Miss Jacori Isaac, art and creativity, that's Mr. Jacori Isaac, art and creativity, and Mr. Jaden Liebert, scholar athlete. Very important, and we commend all 5 of the Division awardees, but also, of course, commend all 25 of the awardees across the Federation. Graduation ceremonies, ladies and gentlemen, are happening even as we speak. Let me publicly apologize, because I'm clearly here and not there, but the Charleston Secondary School and the Sixth Form College are having their graduation today, I believe, and Gingerland has their graduation tomorrow. So I do apologize. This is a clash, but it was unavoidable, given that I want to keep my date with the press every month, and this was the only available opportunity that I had. So I have already said to the principal of CSS that I send my apologies, and I hope that she will be kind enough to accept them. So they are having their graduation ceremonies, but what I think is interesting, because I keep saying it, 94 students are going to graduate today from CSS. 55 are going to graduate today from Sixth Form. 67 are going to graduate tomorrow from GSS. Thursday from GSS. So 94, 55, 67. My math isn't so good, but that is well over 200 students who are coming out of school. And I keep asking the question, as we debate development in Nevis, where are they going to go? Does the existing business environment admit of 200 entrants into the workforce at once? Because that's what happens every year. And for the next 5 years, we can anticipate 1,000 new workers, young people, coming out of school. Is it therefore right that we in government tell them, go to America, go to Canada, go to England, go to the U.S. Virgin Islands? Or should we, as a government, be telling them we are working to create opportunities for you right here on the island of Nevis? That is the question of the age that we must contend with. Let me advise that CSEC and CAPE registration are now open, and we're inviting, of course, those who are interested. These are for the examinations of 2026. Early childhood education, we continue to invest in the early years, which form the bedrock of future academic success. 2 major initiatives will take place. Recognition and award ceremony, where individuals are going to be honored for making significant contributions to early childhood development in Nevis. That will be on December 1st, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the MGR Park. And then we have 15 days of Christmas in songs, showcasing creativity and cultural literacy. December 3rd at NEPAC, admission $10 adults, $5 students, free for preschoolers. These activities reinforce the department's goal of holistic development, promoting language and social skills, cultural appreciation, and early creative expression. The very popular Family Book Feud, promoting literacy and parent engagement, that is happening again, November 29th, Saturday, 6 p.m. at NEPAC. They say they're doing it at NEPAC because it has outgrown its old venue. It's very popular. They're doing nursery rhymes, Bible stories, fairy tales and fables, and cultural heritage. Those are the 4 themed rounds. The initiative aligns with our push for improved literacy outcomes, family engagement, and the development of lifelong readers, critical components of our literacy drive. The Ministry of Education has also been busy with regional development partnerships. We are now participating in the CLGF UN Fund project titles Connecting Civil Society and Local Authorities for Sustainable Development through Community Engagement and Enhancing Vocational Education. This again is part of our TVET push, and what we're doing is also focusing education on employability and the needs of the industry. And then to the important issue of mathematics. I'm pleased to say that we are having our Power Up Your Math Christmas edition. As part of our math improvement strategy, the department will host Power Up Your Math Christmas edition. The initiative targets all Form 5 students across Nevis and runs from December 1st to 11th, Monday to Thursday weekly from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Will take place at the Charlestown Secondary School. The idea really is to improve our mastery of math and dispel a lot of the fear that many have about mathematics. The first school term will officially end on Friday, December 5th. School will reopen on January the 5th next year. Let me say a word about IT, because they keep all of us safe, they keep all of us connected, and sometimes we don't say enough about them. Well, they have been working and have now implemented a new antivirus solution. It's being rolled out all across the government to enhance security and protect against emerging threats. And they have also just commissioned a new server, enabling the government to host additional services locally and improve system reliability. The IT department continues to support all of the various ministries across government. The Nevis Public Library is currently hosting the second annual Tales of the Christmas Tree Reading Challenge. Participants reading the most books in their category will win a prize. Please note that at least half of the books must come from the library. So we ask you to go and check that out. That's very important again. And I hope again, members of the press, we are seeing how the government is functioning. You're seeing what we're doing in sport. You're seeing what we're doing in terms of academics, in terms of math, in terms of reading. We're seeing what is happening in terms of our social development and social empowerment. It is an ongoing effort and a whole of society effort as we try to equip this island to create the best possible island anywhere in the world. Shifting to our development, let me shift to the Ministry of Health. We received 2 EQ600 image plate scanners, generously donated by Island Initiative, a local non-profit foundation. Representative Mrs. Miriam Noor formally presented the equipment to Dr. Ralston Archibald, Senior Dentist at the Charlestown Dental Unit. 1 scanner will be installed in Charlestown Dental Unit, 1 at the Gingerland Dental Unit. And these scanners, I'm told, help to enhance diagnostic accuracy, improve the overall patient experience, and significantly reduce waiting time for dental imaging. So this is a significant step forward in dental care. And on Friday, November 14th, the Ministry of Health facilitated the official handover of 2 Reliance Eye Examination chairs and stands from the St. Kitts Nevis Social Security Board. Deputy Director Ms. Mercia Phillip made a formal presentation to Dr. Raymond Hubie, coordinator of the Nevis Eye Clinic program. Now let me pause to thank our friends at Social Security. Every year, Social Security offers us US $30,000 by way of donations for health. And that has helped us. It helped us, for example, in acquiring new ambulances in the past. And here they are again, providing equipment for our health care and more specifically our eye care. Let me say a word about this eye care, because I'm not sure some of us know that Nevis has now one of the best eye care programs in the region. The Nevis annual eye care program, delivered through the Vision for All initiative, would have concluded on Friday, November 14th. The month-long program once again provided a comprehensive range of vision services to the people of Nevis. Members of the press, listen carefully. This year's clinic sessions, held twice annually in April, May, and October, November, recorded a total of 1,576 patient visits. Services included 43 diabetic laser surgeries, 14 glaucoma surgeries, 74 cataract surgeries, and 2 corneal transplant procedures. 2 corneal transplant procedures done right here in Little Nevis. The impact of the program continues to be profound. For many residents, and in fact our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts are also taking advantage of the program. So the program has now become national in terms of who takes advantage of it. But it helps to prevent avoidable blindness, reduce the burden of chronic eye conditions, ensure that patients receive care that would otherwise be financially or geographically out of their reach. And I want to go on record to express my deep, deep appreciation and appreciation of a grateful island to Dr. Hubie and his dedicated team of volunteers for their unwavering commitment, compassion, and expertise. Their continued partnership has helped thousands of people in St. Kitts and Nevis. World Stroke Day Awareness is recognized October 29th annually, and the Health Promotion Unit, as always, is involved. They have come up with this acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, and what they're asking us to do is to learn what the early indications of stroke are, because they can save lives by so doing. We can, if we know what they are, be able to save our lives and get quick access to medical care. We encourage everyone to know the signs, save a life, and act fast. So know the signs, save a life, and act fast. The Department of Gender Affairs is celebrating its Men's Month under the theme Celebrating Our Men and Boys, Power, Purpose, Perspective, Shaping a Positive Future for Caribbean Men. The activities for the month included the Men and Boys Conference, Male Call at the Malcolm Gishard Park. I was privileged to attend the formal ceremony there. And then we also had the International Men's Day Award. And I just want to publicly recognize these men who are doing amazing things in the Nevis community. Reverend Ron Daniel, he got it for community activism. Mr. Delson Roper, he got the award for education. Mr. Jack Ngumba for human services. Mr. DeJohn Libert for law and security. Mr. Garvin Patterson got it for the creative economy. Mr. Odell Rollins for culinary arts. Mr. Earl Freeman, climate-friendly small businesses. The Premier's Award, I was very proud to award this to Mr. Keith Arterton, as we know, former West Indies cricket player and someone who has contributed immensely to cricket and sport generally in the island of Nevis and in the wider federation. And the Legacy Award went to Mr. Franklin Brown. And there are many Franklin Browns in Nevis, so this is Franklin Brown from Handels Road. He got the Legacy Award. The men's session, Men and Parenthood, Legal Rights and Responsibilities, will be on November 28th. And then on December 9th, there's a podcast, Power in Partnership. The 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is being celebrated around the world from November 25th to December 10th. And the theme for this year is Unite to End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls. I want to pause there. There's an unfortunate tendency to use now digital means to harass, to bully, to shame, and essentially to violate our people. And a lot of people have released online nude images or other graphic material. Sometimes when a relationship breaks up, some people feel the best thing to do is to go on social media and release images and graphic content. It is, one, against the law, it is a crime, but two, it is violating that person in a very serious way. And I'm urging our people to cease and desist from those types of activities, and I am urging them to take advantage of these types of engagements where we try to end this type of violence, digitally based violence. A lot of times you think of violence only in terms of somebody inflicting physical harm, but a lot of these activities inflict, sometimes some may say, far greater harm, because it stays and the scars stay for a lifetime. Let me move, ladies and gentlemen, to an area which I don't believe is getting enough attention, but something I'm very proud of. And that is the ongoing scrap metal initiative. Now, we have, as a government, been forced to tangle with the reality that most of our young people now are opting to buy vehicles. Some are opting to buy multiple vehicles because they get in vehicles quite cheaply from the internet, used vehicles. And every month, the ships are coming in. And I believe the last time I was told, we had over 100 vehicles on that shipment for Nevis alone. So the numbers are growing. Now, some may say that that is an indication that the island is doing well. People have money to buy vehicles. But of course, it also creates an environmental problem, because a lot of these vehicles, when they come, are already close to the end of life. And when the vehicle no longer works, the question begs itself, what do we do with them? And a lot of us, when we drive around the island, we see vehicles parked up all over the island. In people's yards, we see them sometimes even on the side of the roads. We see some people who are mechanics who are using the public road as a parking area and part of the mechanic shop. We are cracking down on all of that. And so I'm here to sound the alarm and send the signal that we are cleaning up this island, and part of that cleanup is this scrap metal initiative. Now, what have we done? We've partnered with some persons from overseas, and they brought in some specialized equipment. And we are going and collecting all these used vehicles, crushing them, and sending them overseas. We are not just crushing the used vehicles, we are also crushing what we call white goods. So the old stoves, the old fridges, the old refrigerators, the old washing machines, all of those we are crushing and removing from the island. And so I think that's a very important initiative which is ongoing and will continue to exercise that level of care and attention to the environment in Nevis. Today, I am making an appeal. We are announcing an amnesty program, vehicle disposal amnesty program. This initiative allows owners of derelict, abandoned, or unlicensed vehicles to voluntarily dispose of them without penalty during the designated amnesty period. Purpose: the amnesty supports the scrap metal program by promoting safe, legal, and environmentally responsible removal of unroadworthy vehicles. Eligibility: vehicles no longer in use, unregistered, or in breach of roadworthiness standards. The amnesty period started on November 10th and it will run until January 31st next year. Please contact the Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority at 469-1762 to arrange a drop-off of your vehicle. Now, you hear what I said, drop-off. So you have a responsibility to get your vehicle to the drop-off point. What we're doing is we are not going to be charging you any type of disposal fee for that vehicle during the amnesty period. And as I said, the amnesty period runs from November 10th to January 31st. Now, here are the drop-off instructions. All eligible vehicles must be delivered to the landfill. There will be no disposal fees once the requirements below are met. Disposal requirements: before you bring the vehicle, please ensure the following components are fully removed: tires, engine and transmission oil, wire harness, radiator, aluminum rims or tires, and catalytic converter, and any fuel in the vehicle. Take out those. Take the wreck, the carcass, what's left, bring it to us, and there will be no charge up until January 31st. Mechanic shops and garages are urged to search their storage areas for derelict or abandoned vehicles that may qualify for disposal under this amnesty. Your support is essential in helping vehicle owners meet the disposal requirements and participate in this community-wide cleanup effort. So, we are putting and have put in place a mechanism, and we are inviting mechanics, garage owners, and individuals to take advantage of this opportunity to get their derelict vehicles dealt with at no cost. Once that period is passed, we will go now into enforcement mode, where we will use what authority exists by law to deal with individuals who either have abandoned vehicles in their homes, on their land, creating a nuisance for their neighbors and others, creating a breeding place for mosquitoes and rodents, and creating, according to the police, a hideout for contraband, for criminals. We need to clean up the island. And then those folks, many of whom are operating garages in areas where they should not be operating them because they have no license to operate any garage, we are also coming to talk to you about how we can ameliorate that situation. If you want to do business, and we're in favor of everybody doing a little business, we want to find a space for you to do business in an area where you're not disturbing your neighbors. Too many people have invested their life savings in their homes and can't sleep comfortably, can't be in their homes comfortably because of the noise of mechanic shops, or sometimes because of the spraying that is being done. One young man reached out to me to say he can't breathe in his house because when the neighbor starts to spray. And I continue to say to our people, we must look out for each other. Too many of us are only concerned about us. Once I'm all right, I don't care about anybody else. That has to stop. And for those who believe that they ought to use their property in order to diminish and devalue somebody else's enjoyment of his or her property, the government will step in. And so I'm just sounding the alarm. I'm asking for our people to be reasonable and to consider each other. I am fairly certain that if you invested your life savings in a home, you would not want any mechanic shop to set up next to you in circumstances where that area is not designated for that activity. You would not want anybody parking 4 and 5 and 6 vehicles outside your house to say they run in a mechanic shop and they have their cars parked on the road. I believe that it's very important that we respect each other, but we also respect the law. So we are putting a framework in place. We are working with people. But for those who are recalcitrant, those who don't want to be worked with, then we will have to exercise all the powers that the law gives in order to deal with such matters. A very important announcement from Social Services that they will be launching phase 5 of the RISE program with 14 participants. And again, this may not be a program that has attracted sufficient attention because RISE is a classic program that offers people a hand up and not a hand out. I want to emphasize that. It offers people a hand up. Training, assistance. Those persons are now doing CXC subjects. They're getting an opportunity to elevate themselves. And so we're teaching them to fish rather than giving them a fish. It's a very empowering program, and I'm very pleased to see the progress that has been made thus far. And so, we are doing a number of sessions with this RISE program, and I'm sure that I'll be able to come back and report to you, as I do each year, about the success. Last year, quite a few, not last year, this year, I'm sorry, quite a few of the RISE program participants passed CXC subjects, and therefore are better able now to go into the workplace to demand a better salary because they have enhanced qualifications. Our seniors, you know, we continue to take good care of our seniors. We just celebrated International Month of Older Persons in October, and the seniors did all kinds of things. They had Thanksgiving service. They traveled to each parish and presented your not forgotten awards to 5 exemplary citizens. I want to name them because they have contributed significantly. Mrs. Marjorie Brown, St. Paul's. Juliet Francis, St. John's. Vinetta Hobson Moving, St. George. Vernon Tim Wilkinson, our famous postman, St. Thomas's. And Rajul Archibald in St. James. These were all given awards. We're saying to our seniors, you are not forgotten. You have contributed, and we stand today on the foundation that you have built. And then on Wednesday 22nd, it was an evening to shine like a star as the seniors throughout Nevis performed in the Seniors Got Talent. A variety of performances, drama, song, dance, poetry, musical instruments. And then on Friday 24th October, you had Creativity in Galore at the Seniors Sport Meet number 2. And then on 28th October to come, seniors will host their, on 20th October last, seniors hosted their exhibition and health fair showcasing a variety of handcrafted items, all created by the seniors themselves. The month of older persons concluded with a grand seniors gala and award ceremony, where seniors came out in impressive numbers to celebrate. In attendance were Her Honor the Deputy Governor General and members of the Cabinet. And so we had a wonderful time for Seniors Month. And again, I hope you are listening, You hear how we're dealing with our children in school, our primary school. You hear how we're dealing with those in high school. You hear how we're dealing with those in the rights program. You hear how we're dealing now with our seniors. I hope you recognize, members of the press, nobody is being left behind on the island of Nevis. That is what we're seeking to achieve. Community development, Christmas in the capital, scheduled for Wednesday, December 3rd. And of course, that's always a grand event. That's next week, Wednesday. And then a Christmas cultural market will be held on Friday, December 19th at the DR Walwyn Plaza. Christmas passport competition. The Department of Community Development will once again host the Christmas passport competition. The top 5 people who attend the most Christmas tree lighting ceremonies will win a prize. And what are these prizes? Breakfast buffet for two at Escalina at Four Seasons, a cash voucher for Best Buy Supermarket, lunch or dinner for two at Sunshine's Bar and Grill, dinner for two at Oahu Beach Resort, and 2 round-trip tickets on apple cider. We thank all the businesses that came forward and that are partnering with us. And then attention to details. The Department of Community Development, in partnership with Mount Nevis Hotel, is hosting Attention to Details, a food and beverage service training workshop focused on key areas of the hospitality industry. Sessions are held every Monday at the Mount Nevis Hotel from 5 to 7 p.m. and a total of 8 participants are enrolled in this workshop. The workshop is being facilitated by Delroy Russ Iroy Pinney, who works with us. Threads and Needles Sewing Workshop. The sewing workshop is currently underway at the Butlers Community Center with a total of 17 participants. Sessions are held every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Participants have already learned essential stitching techniques and have created aprons, cushions, completed shirt alterations, and more. Enthusiasm is high, and they're learning a great deal while enjoying the process. And of course, I can't close that without thanking my dear friend, Mavis Paris. What Mavis' title is? Senior Technical Teacher. She has a special title. The only person who has a special title at the school is Mavis Paris, my friend. Mavis, if you're listening, thank you for all that you're doing. And I want to say something about Mavis, because when we had a scholarship opportunity to study batik in Indonesia, we cast the net wide. Mavis was the only person who responded. And Mavis has kept saying to me, listen, if the young people don't want the opportunities, give it to the older ones. Because so many scholarship opportunities and the young people are sitting back. And she grabbed that, she went to Indonesia, and she came back certified and knowing how to do batik. And so, Mavis, thank you for your courage and thank you for your contribution there. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, in agriculture, the Ministry and Department of Agriculture made a significant donation of 130 fruit trees to the Premier Farm and Sea to Table Wellness Initiative in Anguilla, dubbed Hope and Harvest. The initiative was hosted during the weekend of November 4th to 16th. It was aimed at combating non-communicable diseases, as well as to promote the consumption of local products and food security in general. Our Deputy Premier and Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, traveled to Anguilla to officially hand over the fruit trees. They included soursop, sugar apple, Taiwanese sugar apple, passion fruit, custard apple, and cherry. The handover took place during the main event on Sunday, so 130 persons went home. And in fact, the organizer, Dr. Carissa Webster Lake, we thank her for the partnership, she has already posted on social media that people are sending her pictures of their fruit trees already planted in their yard. And so we're very grateful for this partnership with Anguilla, and we look forward to doing even more in the future. Deputy Premier Evelyn took the opportunity to promote the 30th edition of Agri Expo, slated for March 2026, as well, of course, as his baby, the Nevis Culturama Festival. Officials from the Nevis Tourism Authority, as well as the Mango Festival chef, were also part of the wellness initiative, during which they promoted the Nevis Mango Festival, slated for early July 2026. I will leave matters there and now take your questions. Before I take your questions, however, forgive me, members of the press, I should have done it at the start, but perhaps it's an important item that I need to mention while I'm here, and that is to say that today we have the birthday of a very important person, who is Her Honor, our Deputy Governor General Hailita Liebert. I want to use this rostrum to wish her a happy birthday, to thank her for her excellent and unblemished public service, all the years as an educator and now as the Deputy Governor General for Nevis. I am hopeful that she's out celebrating, and so she won't be hearing this, I'm sure, but somebody might tell her that on behalf of the Cabinet, I extend heartiest congratulations to her on her birthday and wish her many, many more years of good health and happiness. And while I'm celebrating birthdays, I should also say that today is the birthday of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, and so I want to wish him a happy birthday as well. I will now open for questions.
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
L.K. Hewlett, Department of Education. Okay. Can you give us an update on the NIA's efforts at recycling? I know they're doing the scrap metal, but I know quite a bit of work is being done in terms of plastic bottles especially. Yesterday, I'm not sure if you're aware that two of Nevis's schools won categories over at a ceremony held in St. Kitts, the Taiwanese ICDF, what was it called, National Recycling Competition. I think St. John's Primary won in the early childhood department, and VOJN won best.
St. John's, you mean Elizabeth Pemberton Primary?
No, St. John's Primary Preschool, sorry.
Oh, preschool.
St. John's Preschool,
okay.
my bad.
Okay.
And the VOJN won in the primary school category. And I think VOJN won overall in terms of the highest average of recyclables collected. And that's out of 55 schools that participated, 17 from Nevis and 38 from St. Kitts. So Nevis did very well. So I know there's going to be a ceremony, I think it's tomorrow, at the landfill. So can you speak to the government's recycling efforts? I turn to water drilling. If the well at Dasons is successful, when do you anticipate the drillers will target a fifth well? And is the plan for water drilling, I think it was 9 total of 9 wells to be drilled. So will that continue apace? When will Nevis be getting the photo radar technology, or what persons have branded as P-trap cameras, and will there be any sensitization prior to implementation? Final question, when is the SSD agreement likely to be signed, and has any of the major commitments, especially to the NIA, been changed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hewlett. You mentioned the schools, and I did not get that information in time for this press conference, but I think the narrative that you have just given us speaks for itself in terms of the efforts that are happening and ongoing in Nevis in terms of recycling. I did report on the scrap metal initiative, and that is also part of our recycling effort. But we are also seeing more and more effort being concentrated on plastics, and we have just, with the assistance of our dear friends Taiwan, built out a new facility at our landfill, and I'm advised by the minister that we have also now received a more powerful baling machine, a baler I think it's called. And all that the baler does for members of the public is crushes the plastic. So the plastic bottles are crushed and then they are put into bundles in order to ship them overseas. So we are not recycling here in the sense of converting those plastic into something else. But what we are doing is collecting, bundling, and shipping off the island to recycling plants that are elsewhere. That is again an initiative that I am extremely proud of as a government, because it is the first initiative of its kind that we've seen on the island, and we have done remarkably well. I believe at my last tally, we have already shipped either 3 or 4 40-foot containers of plastics from this island. We have also, as part of that, been encouraging the water companies on Nevis to convert some of what they do to glass bottles. And in matter of fact, I have here a bottle of Nelson Spring. Nelson Spring now has glass bottles where they're producing water in glass bottles, and you can see those at many of the restaurants and hotels around the island. So the business community has been responding positively as well. I want to join all in commending the schools. You said VOJN and the St. John's Preschool, to commend them in terms of their efforts and what they've been doing, but to commend all the people of Nevis. Even in my own household, I will tell you that there is now active separation of plastics. There's a bin just for plastics. And so plastic bottles go into that bin. They're delivered to the site. And it's something that my wife has been very passionate about for a long time. So she engages, and she has laid down the law in the house that this is the way we have to deal with plastics. And so, you know, she who must be obeyed, that is the usual manner in most households. So we are doing what she says. We are ensuring that the plastics are collected and then taken, crushed, and then removed from the island. That is an initiative that is ongoing. It's one that we're proud of and one that we continue to roll out. I think the minister, the last report she gave to the cabinet, said that cardboards would also now be included. So we're shifting as well to other types of waste. Water drilling, we are hopeful that the well at Daysons will be completed this year. The process, as you know, was delayed because we had a mishap where the drill head apparently broke, drill bit broke inside the well, and we could not retrieve it, so we had to drill again, second well. We also had a mishap in terms of a well at Braziers because we drilled a well there, and then there were some gases that were emanating from the well. And so we thought that it was better to err on the side of caution, and so we sealed off that well and have now focused efforts on Daysons. When we're done with Daysons, I can't tell when. I haven't had a report on that in time for today. But when we're done, I anticipate we'll then move to other possible locations. I know we're looking at a location fairly close to the geothermal drill site. So we're looking at a location there. What I will say is that the initial contract was for 9 wells, but we may well do fewer wells than 9 because we have found significant water, for example, at the 2 first wells that were done in Maddens. So our goal was to add 1.5 to 2 million gallons of additional water per day into the system. So if we can hit that goal, we may do fewer wells. But that will be a matter for the water officials to engage in. Water drilling is going to be critical because I should have reported earlier that we are nearing now very close to the start of our geothermal drilling. The bid process is now completed. A driller has been selected. I'm not at liberty, unfortunately, to disclose who that driller is, which company, because there's still some processes to go through. But we anticipate that in very short order we'll be able to make a public announcement, and we're hopeful that in January we could have a signing ceremony which will mark the start of the production well drilling. And to do that we're going to need water, and so again I'm just demonstrating how the government's initiatives are not haphazard but coordinated. That is what we're seeking to do. The photo radar technology, Ms. Hewlett, you asked if it's in Nevis yet. It may be. It may not be. I don't know. What I can say is that we've had conversations with the police high command, and it is our intent to have that technology, if it's not here yet, to be here. The reason I'm saying the way I'm saying it is because I think our people should drive cautiously on our roads. We have seen some horrific accidents in St. Kitts, truly horrific, which has cost numerous lives. Nevis has not seen the same level of accidents, but nevertheless, as I said earlier, we're seeing hundreds of cars every month coming into the island. And younger people are on the roads are better, and so it's a recipe of more cars, more drivers, better roads for speeding. And sometimes when I see people drive on the road, it's only the grace of God that we haven't had more difficulties. So I welcome definitely these radar traps, and stay off the gas, you save fuel and you save money, because these fines will be quite high. So they will be rolled out. Yes, there will be some public engagement in education. I believe it is for that reason that the original fines in St. were discarded, if you will, waived, but they're definitely going to come. And I want to just share something with the public. These radars are movable. So don't bother feel that you're going to start to say, oh, well, I know there's one in Cotton Ground, or I know there's one in Gingerland. There may be one in Gingerland today, and that one is in Brownville tomorrow. So the bottom line is, the message to drivers is be careful on the roads. That is the message. All right? SSZ, you asked when the agreement likely to be signed. I think we're close. We have had a number of consultations. We have had some engagements. We have had an ongoing engagement with the developers in terms of the content of the agreement. I believe that I saw only this weekend a response which suggests that the parties are now closer than they were to this. The cabinet has spent a few days where we dedicated, even on a Saturday, the entire day just to this. So we've done a lot of work. We've taken on board the comments. We've taken on board the various representations that have been made, some in writing to the government, and all of that has gone into informing our position. So we anticipate that we should be able to sign something shortly, but I don't have a date in mind. In fact, I should have said, members of the press, that I'm due to travel today, but the notice has gone out publicly already, so we will have to see what happens, but we would ideally like to be able to sign off on this before the new year, so that we can then go into the new year determining which direction we are moving in. No, there has been no fundamental changes to the commitments that have been made. There are some additional commitments that the developers have proposed that we are working on. So I'm not yet saying anything about that publicly. But I think that if we can achieve certainly one of those, the public will be well pleased in terms of what we're trying to negotiate. I just want to say to the people of Nevis that you would have elected this government for a reason, and you elected us because you had confidence in us. And we are engaging in all that we do. This comprehensive report I've given today, we're engaging in all that we do for the benefit of the people of Nevis. We do not expect in a democracy that everybody will agree with everything that we do. We do not expect that everybody will agree with everything that we say. But we expect that people will understand that the people of Nevis elected a government, and they elected that government because clearly, for those on show, they decided that the CCM team was a better team, and that is why we're here. And it is our job then to do our job, and our job is to create opportunities for those 200 young people that are coming out of school this week, and for the 200 that are going to come next year, and for those who are coming back from university, and for those who are in the diaspora who want to come home, and for every one of us. There must be opportunity created in this island of Nevis, and that is our objective, and that is what we're seeking to do. The SSZ has created a lot of heat, but sometimes I regret very little light. The debate has been heated, but not particularly enlightening, and we have seen so much misinformation spread about it. I'm happy now that at least people now understand what the project is about. I'm not saying that that means people will support the project, but at least they understand what the project is about. And a lot of the hysteria and the misinformation, we can just put that to one side and really debate the merits or demerits of large-scale development for the island of Nevis. So that is where we are at this point. I welcome any other questions you may have.
Just to follow up to the SSC question, in terms of the appetite of especially the Nevision people to the idea, to the project, I know that people had started from the time Destiny launched to register for jobs and to register for services and scholarship, and also for the lack of a better term, dividend. What has been the uptake in terms of that, if you have the figures?
So I have not had a recent figure, Ms. Hewlett, but the last time I got an update was perhaps about 2 weeks ago, and they said that they already had over 1,200 persons had signed up indicating that they would be interested in working. And what I found was interesting is that they said that they had actually called all of those persons to have a conversation with them about their skill set, their resume, what it is they offer. And I gather that they also had over 400 businesses that had indicated that they had services that they would like to offer. And I think it's a very interesting approach that they've taken, where even in advance of getting any approvals, they have asked the public, would you be interested in working with us? And some people have responded. In fact, we had a fascinating engagement with over 300 teachers just last week, I believe it was, at NEPAC. And afterwards, you know, in Nevis you have the engagement, and then you have the engagement after the engagement. And so the engagement after the engagement, I was quite interested that a few of our teachers said that they've applied. And they're looking to segue from teaching to doing something in the private sector. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But over 1,200 persons at the last report had signed up and said that they're interested in working. And that is why I keep saying to our people, Nevis is a very robust democracy. Freedom of speech here is alive and well. May it forever be so. But we have to be careful, because a lot of us like to frame our language and start by saying the people of Nevis don't want this, or the people of Nevis say that. Right? We have to be careful, because the people aren't necessarily those who are shouting the loudest. We have a few who shout very loud. And a good example was when we had the town hall meeting at the Anglican Church Hall. In a standing room only venue, some person shouted out, no, they don't want any development. And that was taken by the usual propagandists to say that the entire meeting. But I could have counted those who said no on one hand. It was about 6 people. They just that they were shouting louder than everybody else because they had come to disrupt the meeting. That was their purpose. Right? The massive people who were there were not engaged in any histrionics. They weren't they were just there to hear, to listen, to learn, to ask questions. So I find it all interesting sometimes that people feel that because they're making the most noise in the room, that they're speaking for the room. And the Division people are quiet people, but we know what we want. And that is why I tell people sometimes, you know, I've been in politics for a little while. The biggest crowds at the final rally sometimes bear no resemblance to the results of the election the day after. Because people will come if you have a big artist. Of course, the people are going to come. They're going to jump up with you. If you have free drinks and free chicken, why not? But that has nothing to do with the way people in Nevis vote. And I keep telling people, if they don't learn that, they will not understand the Division people. So I don't get involved too much in all the noise making, because at the end of the day, people who are quietly messaging me, people who are quietly having a conversation with me, people who are giving me the ideas quietly, who are saying to me, we need something transformative, this could be it, but negotiate this point, negotiate that point. And so all this roar and noise that is being made, people are entitled to it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't reflect anything close to a majority. And if 1,200 plus people have already applied, so they're looking for work, that speaks volumes. Speaks volumes, speaks for itself. I'll take any other questions, please.
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
Good morning, media colleagues, and good morning to those who are viewing. Shamika Budgin, Vaughan Radio. Regarding the fiscal year for 2026 on Nevis, will any new taxes be implemented? Can we have an update on the Charlestown Police Station? Will the Alexandra Hospital Wing project be put on hold for next year, or will the NIA basically wait until everything has been ironed out, so to speak, with the developers for the Destiny project to finish it? Considering Mr. Jansen indicated in a statement in October that millions of dollars will be funded for the hospital and the health centers on the island. Any update on the broiler processing facility? The Deputy Premier had mentioned on July 13th of this year during a town hall meeting. He said work would have started during that same week. So can you provide an update on that? In the area of traffic, speed signs, I know that the traffic department has recently implemented or will implement speed meters or radar traps, both in St. Kitts and Nevis. And from what I've seen thus far, vehicular accidents have gone down significantly. However, the public feels that there should be more speed signs on the main road so all can feel good and know that we are following the law. The questions are, Mr. Premier, is it just in the city? Should we drive 20 miles per hour? In what areas can you accelerate to 40 miles per hour? Can we see an improvement of the above mentioned? In tourism, with a special sustainability zone or SSZ on the south end of the island, if the project goes through, would it have an effect on our tourism product for us on the outside of the zone? Let's say if tourists prefer to go to the more high-end areas on the island, which can very well be the SSZ zone, how then can we prevent or secure continued productivity for the smaller hotel stakeholders outside the zone? Is there or will there be a mechanism put in place for that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Budgeon. As usual, you ask some very important questions. Some I can answer simply. Any new taxes in the new budget? No. There won't be any new taxes. The posture that my government has taken over the years is that where possible, we have sought to impose tax increases on goods, services, or tax increases on individuals who are outside the local population. So I mentioned, for example, when we increased the TDL, the Tourism Development Levy, that bites on principally visitors to the island. We have increased some charges at the Financial Services Registry. Those are not taxes per se, but fees and charges. So to incorporate companies and to do various types of business here, we've increased those. So by doing that, we've increased revenue without putting any additional burden on the people of Nevis. And so I think our record on that has been quite good. We have had to make some adjustments at the hospital, but that was done already in terms of cost there, and we have had to make some adjustments in terms of water. That was also done already. So we do not anticipate that there will be anything further in this new budget that is to come. In fact, the new budget, I think, will be read on the 2nd of December. That is next week. When's the 2nd of December? December 2nd? Yes, Tuesday. That's when the budget will be read. So we anticipate that will happen fairly soon. The Charleston Police Station work had stopped for some period of time. I was advised that work had restarted. My last conversation with the contractor, bear in mind it's a federal project, it's not an NIA project. We are only assisting in terms of some supervision through, I think, Public Works. So whatever the issues were, work had stopped, but then work restarted. I want to thank our PS, Wakely Daniel, who has been in constant contact with the PS on St. Kitts, Mr. Glenroy Blanchett, in trying to move that project ahead. But my last conversation was with the contractor, who was a Nevision contractor at Lefco Equipment, and they did indicate at that point that they had restarted, but I don't know where that is now. My understanding is that it's just minor finishing that's left to be done. And so I'm still hopeful that they could get that done and be done with that project, certainly by the end of this year.
What was the difficulty within that project? Why it stopped?
So apparently, based on what I'm gathering, there were some significant change orders because they were working in an old building. Once they pulled down this area, they found out that there was more work to be done. Those change orders led to a significant increase in the cost of the project. So it looks like there was some issues about that payment of those increased costs. And I know that in fact, I was told that the increased cost was several $100,000 in terms of increase. So there was very significant, and that, as I said, was a matter being dealt with at the federal level. So it was the federal government engaging with the contractor, because the NIA, it's not an NIA project, it's a national security project. But as I said, the complaints do come to us, and so we have engaged both the minister, the Pierce, and myself as the premier. We have engaged with St. Kitts, and we did get some movement, and the chaps did go back to work. But as I said, I do not have an update since then. The hospital, we had committed that we would want to restart the hospital this fiscal year. That did not prove possible because we simply did not have the financing to do so. We've done everything else. We just need to line up the money to do so. And so the anticipation is that we'll start the hospital in the new year. The estimates that we've got are telling us 18 to 24 months to completion. And so we anticipate that we'll be able to do that certainly in this term before we come back to the people for a renewed mandate at some point in the future.
So you're not solely waiting on Destiny then?
No, Destiny provides one avenue, but certainly we're looking at other opportunities for funding. It's really a funding question for us. So Destiny has said to us, listen, we want to put some money into healthcare. We have said, could you put that money into the hospital? But if that Destiny project does not happen, then clearly we have to find alternatives. So we are open to alternatives, and we're discussing those alternatives as we go. But the issue really right now is merely a financing issue, and we hope to have that in place so that we can start in the new year. The broiler industry, work has in fact started at that facility, not at the pace that I would like. Frankly, I have said, because we have two ministers, the Minister of Agriculture and Deputy Premier, Honorable Eric Evelyn, and the Minister of Works, who is the Honorable Spencer Brand. They've been working together to deliver this project. And I've said to them both that I'm concerned about the pace of delivery, because the financing is there. The contractors are in place, so there's no issue. But what I'm being told is that there were some changes made to the layout, one, and two, there was some issue apparently associated with getting the materials. They're using a particular form of construction, and so the materials had to be brought in. So it's not the usual block and mortar construction that we would do. They're bringing in some special building materials that had to be brought in. So my indication is that several containers have been shipped already. The foundation had been set out, and I am anticipating that even as we approach Christmas, that we'll see the building coming out of the ground in short order. That's the last update that I had. Traffic speed signs, radar traps. I agree with you. I've had a discussion with the High Command that we need better signage on the island, because I myself, driving around here, don't know which zone is 20 miles an hour, which is 40. We used to have up some signs over the years, but over the years those signs get knocked down or whatever, and they're not replaced. So we need to go on a mission in relation to that. The rule of thumb, as I understand it from the police, is that it is 20 miles per hour in developed areas or occupied areas. So if you're in a village area, if you're in Charleston, then you should be at 20 miles or less. But if you go now on the island main road, or you go to an area that is unoccupied, then you can do 40 miles. That's the rule of thumb. But I believe that you ought to have signage that puts it beyond doubt, because somebody may well say, well, I wasn't aware that I was now in a densely occupied area as opposed to a sparsely occupied area. So I think that that's important, and I agree. And if the NIA has to partner to get those signs up, we will take care of that for sure, but that's important. Tourism, you say, well, inside the SSZ, of course, they are planning several high-end hotels inside the zone. That has been part of the presentations that have been made, including the public presentation made at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. You asked whether or not it will mean that people will move there because there's high-end to that area. My opinion, Ms. Budgeon, is that the whole of Nevis is high-end. Everywhere in Nevis is high-end, right? It is true that the smaller hotels, right, may say, well, these larger operations are going to come in. But I think price point is going to be a huge factor, right? Not every guest is going to be able to pay $2,000 or $3,000 a night for a hotel room. That guest may be able to pay $200 or $300 a night. And I think that people are going to find their space in terms of where I go, where I think I'm getting value for my money, what experience I'm looking for. So even now, for example, an experience at the Hermitage is a different experience to say one at Hamilton Beach. An experience at Montpelier at Golden Rock is a different experience to Four Seasons. So even within the current setup, absent any SSD, you have people having choices, and people will make a choice based on a number of factors, including price. So the fact that the hotels in that zone are intended to be very high-end, ultra-premium brands, we anticipate that the pricing will also be very high. And so that ought not to interfere with the regular guests who comes to one of the other hotels on the island. So that is, in any event, the anticipation of how this will work. So I say the entire island is high-end, but offering different types of product. It's a product differentiation within the high-end or boutique luxury category. So that is where we're positioned in the market, as a luxury boutique type island. And so we have within that variations in terms of what's on offer. So I don't anticipate that there should be any difficulty at all. I see this as all the tide that lifts all boats. We have more hotels, we have more guests. You know, they're going to want to experience Nevis. They're going to want to go and golf at the Four Seasons. They're going to want to, go and experience a spa someplace else. They want to have the Rastaman cook for them, cook some ital, whatever the case may be. All of this is part of the experience. Any other questions for me, please? Yes?
Morning, Gwen George, the Observer. Mr. Premier, some months ago you mentioned that the Honorable Janice Hodge sold and family sold land in the south of the island. Listening to Mr. Hanson yesterday, he said not even you knew about the project back then. Would you issue a public apology to the Honorable Janice Hodge since you chastised her publicly?
Apology for what? For her selling her land?
No. For the statement that, how you were saying the statement that how, like, she knew about something was going on there or something.
No. Mr. George, get your facts straight. I said that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge would have sold land to these developers in that area. And I stand by that because that's a factual statement. I never got into any debate about what she knew. I couldn't know that. I wasn't a part of that. I knew she sold land. She then denied that she sold any land. That was the debate.
Okay.
All right? So I don't think there's any need for any apology of any kind. If she sold her land, then my statement is 100% correct.
Right.
If she did not sell her land, as she claims, then it is for her to show that she has not sold any lands. But this question about when anybody knew is a separate question to the issue of have you sold land. And that is what I focused on. And I go back, I'm very clear in my mind, because the first statement I made on this was in a national address I made on August 25th. And that is what I said, very specifically, that she, and not only her, some others as well, had sold their lands in the area to these developers. All right? So that much I can confirm because that is the truth. Right? So the question about whether people knew of the nature of the development, I can't speak to that because I was not party to any negotiations. All right? So I don't think that any apology is due from me because I have not misrepresented the position at all.
Understandable.
Mm-hmm.
What were the three recommendations given by the Taiwanese when they about the finishing of the Alexander Hospital?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The environmental impact of the proposed development on the south of the island. Can you tell us which company or which firm is doing that?
Yes.
1 second. You have said that the government doesn't own any land in the south of the island a few months ago. I think last week you appeared on one of the shows and you said that the government has land. Can you tell us how did the government acquire this land? And two, some years ago, the land for debt swap, the government sold the 200 and something acres they had over there to Social Security and National Bank. Can you tell us if this land has been sold or the developers approached these different boards to sell this land?
Okay, anything further?
Yes, sir. There are a lot of posts concerning the developer and his group of investors or affiliates. You have said that character of personnel don't matter. But I remember some years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine, the US put some penalties on certain individuals and their citizenship from St. Kitts and Nevis and around the Caribbean was revoked. Why is it then that we're seeing that many persons, based on their political affiliations and their beliefs, does not shape what is the type of investment or if they're allowed to come to Nevis to invest? And last one is, earlier in the month, Mr. Congress Maynard mentioned that he's he's about to move a motion to have the geothermal project become a national one. What's your views on that?
Thank you very much, Mr. George. Let me start where you started. You said there were 3 recommendations given by the Taiwanese on the hospital. The Taiwanese, it is the EOCC, I think they're called, is a Taiwanese group that we asked to look at this project for us. And they came back with a few options. They came back with an option of completing what we have there. They came back with an option of completing some of what we have there, because it's like a 3-story. So they said they could have done 2 stories. And they came back with an option of doing a completely new facility someplace else. Because we asked them to explore all the possible options. The option that we have decided on is to complete the facility that is there. All right? So those were the options that they provided, and of course that's the one that we have decided because that is consistent with our position going forward. You asked who's doing the EIA on the South Coast. I cannot answer that today because I have not been updated on the company or entity that's doing it. What I can say is that the last report we had was that the EIA was practically complete, and we have said that that has to be reviewed by independent persons on behalf of the NIA. So once that comes, we will have that reviewed. You say that I said that we don't own any land on the South Coast. I have been very careful to try to qualify that statement and to be very clear about what we are saying. The land that the government owned on the South Coast was 238 acres of land. That was in our name. That land was swapped in 2012 under the previous administration to the National Bank. You mentioned Social Security. Social Security was not involved in the land for debt swap, to the National Bank for debt. Okay? So that land, the 238 acres, is now owned by National Bank. And yes, it is my understanding that National Bank has agreed to sell those lands to these developers. That's my understanding. So those lands are gone. The NHLDC, the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, owns some small tracts of land close to Saddle Hill area. And I have been in the media to say that those lands owned by the NHLDC, we are not selling those. What we would like to do is to swap those for lands elsewhere. And thus far we are discussing with these developers that they will purchase land elsewhere to give to the NHLDC, Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, at a rate of 1.2 to 1. So for every 1 acre, we'll get 1.2 acres someplace else on the island. we see it as an opportunity for us to increase our land stock, right, whilst not interfering with the possibility of this project happening. The third thing that I've also been very clear to say in the media is that there are, now that we have looked at the entire area of the South Coast, pockets of land which are untitled, meaning that they don't have any registration at all for those lands. The advice that we've had, and I've said in the past that we're investigating, we have a surveyor who's working with us. The advice that we have is that those lands are crown lands, but are not registered lands. So we are now trying to see where those lands are, what the boundaries of those lands may be, and then we'll decide what we do with those lands. So I just want to be very clear that when I say we don't have any lands over there, it's a true statement in that we don't have anything that is recorded to the NIA. The lands that we did have were already swapped away. NHLDC has some lands close to Saddle Hill. They're not for sale. They're considering doing a swap. And then we have some lands now that we are looking at in terms of investigating, well, who's the owner of those lands? Because currently, you know, it's a couple acres here and a couple acres there, but there's no registration, no owners at all. And the advice, as I said, that we had is that those lands may be crown lands, and that is why we're doing the investigation with a surveyor to make that determination. So I will certainly come back in the fullness of time, Mr. George, to say if we've found those lands to be government lands, then certainly we would say that those are government lands in the area. So that is really what's happening over there, but I can tell you categorically now that the government doesn't have any lands being held in any way, shape, or form by title or deed that is in the hands of the NIA. What we did have, 238 acres, was swapped by the NRP for debt in 2012 or thereabouts. You asked me about, you said that I have said character doesn't matter. I am very careful about what I say, and I can tell you that I've never said character doesn't matter. What I have said to you is that when developers come, we must do our due diligence. And what we look for when we do our due diligence is largely to do with whether or not they have any criminal record, whether they're involved in any form of criminality, whether charges have been brought, whether there are investigations pending into them, whether they're involved in terrorism, terrorist financing, you know, those kinds of things we would look at. What I have seen from some posts is there's an effort, it seems, in some quarters to say that this particular developer is a libertarian. I have not myself even investigated what a libertarian is, but that is the allegation that the person is a libertarian, and because the person is a libertarian, apparently we're not supposed to do business with that person. That is the suggestion that I've heard in some quarters. My response to that is that I am looking at the proposal that is in front of the cabinet, and I don't see any proposal in front of the cabinet that is asking for anything libertarian. It's asking for permission to develop an area of this island which is undeveloped. It is asking for permission to do a project jointly, which we now have to evaluate to determine will it provide the kind of jobs and incentives and opportunities for the island of Nevis to take us to the next level. So my position is not that character doesn't matter, because character always matters. My position is that when you're dealing with developers, delving into what they believe, what they do not believe. Do they believe in gay marriage? How is that relevant to the question of whether they're bringing a development to the country that can benefit the country? Right? Do they believe in, I don't know, do they believe the world is the world is flat? Right? How is that relevant? So I'm saying when you start to drill down now into when you're dealing with investors and developers, well, you have to disclose to me what your belief system is. You have to disclose whether you're Christian or Muslim. You have to disclose whether you're Hindu. You have to disclose to us what your views are on this and what your views are on that. I think it's a step too far. My own view is let us assess a development based on what is proposed, and let us do our usual due diligence to determine if these people are criminal or have criminal intent or are otherwise involved in something that would be inimical to our national security. That to me is an ordinary course. And so you did mention about Russia and all of that. That is somewhat different, I think, contextually, simply because the United States is the big brother in the hemisphere, and the United States essentially took a position and said to those of us in the region, its allies, that they wanted us to support that particular position. So that is, I think, different contextually. The matter of Mr. Conris Maynard and what the Honorable Conris Maynard, what he said. Again, I'm wondering whether, Mr. George, your recollection is entirely accurate. I'll tell you this. I'm not doubting you. But the reason I'm saying it because somebody sent me a clip from the Honorable Conris Maynard. And what Conris Maynard said in the clip was that we had passed a resolution in the House, which we did. We passed a resolution, I think it's 2 years ago, in the House. And that resolution did not say that geothermal is a national asset. The resolution said that we will work together, the federal government and the NIA, to develop the geothermal resource for the benefit of the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I think that that's qualitatively a different statement to the way you put the question. As I said, I did not see the whole interview. I only saw the whole statement. I only saw that part of it. But he wasn't saying he was going to introduce a motion. He was saying that we had a motion. And 2 years ago, we passed a motion in the House dealing with geothermal. It's public record, so I'm sure you can find it. But what it said is that we jointly commit St. Kitts and Nevis to developing the resource for the benefit of the entire Federation. And I don't see that there's anything wrong with that, because we are where we are right now because of that cooperative stance on geothermal. We couldn't get access to CDB money without the Prime Minister being on board. We couldn't get access to the Saudi Arabia money without the Prime Minister being on board. And we couldn't get access to Green Climate Fund money without the Prime Minister being on board. So clearly, there's a need for us to cooperate, to hold hands, and to deliver this project and this resource for the benefit of all the people of the country. That means that the same way Nevis is going to get cheaper, cleaner energy, Kittish is going to get cleaner, cheaper energy. And the benefits that flow should also flow to the entire country, because clearly we are developing this together, and we could not, as Nevis, do it alone. We spent a lot of years, Mr. George, trying to do it alone. And when we did try to do it together, of course, during the unity years, the chaps in St. Kitts clearly were not interested. So Labour has come, Prime Minister Drew has come, he sees the value in this, and I've said, okay, let us join together and let us develop this project for the benefit of all. Any other questions for me?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good
My
morning.
name is Bjorn, and I'm a YouTube content creator. I react to breaking news that affect the Caribbean and Africa. The name of that channel is Beyond Uncut, and I also have another channel which is for travel and tourism purposes. Mr. Premier, there have been a number of complaints over the past weeks, months and years in regards to the electoral office in Nevis. Several persons would have went there to register and were turned back, and reasons given were that the machine is not working, the internet is down, the person who is supposed to register is not there, all kind of reasons. And when you compare that to the electoral system in St. Kitts and Nevis, to the UK, in the UK you can register to vote online. I just did a little Google search here, and just to read this short paragraph here, this is saying, a question was asked, can you register to vote online in the UK? And the response was, yes, you can register to vote online in the UK via government website. The process usually takes about 5 minutes. What you need, and it's saying, what you need to register online to vote in England, Scotland and Wales, you will typically need the following information: your address, your date of birth, national insurance number, that is like your social security number, and your passport. That's it. So somebody in the UK can stay at home and upload all that information and register to vote. But in Nevis and in St. Kitts and Nevis, there are multiple of issues. It's very difficult for persons to register to vote. And also, in regards to, my understanding is that there is a picture list at the electoral office. However, that picture list is only presented on the day of election. To get a list now, you'll just get a list of thousands of names. So there can be a number of dead persons on the list. Names is very hard to identify persons if you don't see a picture to the name. So my question is, why do we have such an outdated electoral system, considering we are living in such a modern era and we have the capacity to develop a modern system? Because we saw several months ago when the federal government was paying JAD cash every month. All of that was done from home. So surely they can do something like the UK. Why are we not doing this? And why can't the opposition get a picture voters list so that persons can be properly identified and fraud detected? And also, Ms. Hewlett answered the question, not answered, she asked the question that I was going to ask about the Destiny project, and which when you hope to sign that agreement. I think Mr. Jansen said he's hoping to have it signed by the end of this year. You confirmed today that you want to sign it by the end of this year as well. So my question is, I would like you to tighten up a little bit on that. What are the chances of us going into 2026 and beyond and still talking about Destiny without a signed agreement and you bringing it to Parliament? Is it a low chance of us going into 2026 and beyond? High or very high chance? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hanley, thank you very much. You spent quite a bit of time talking about the electoral system, but I'm sure you must know that the electoral system does not fall under my purview or the purview of the Nevis Island administration. We have absolutely no control over the electoral system in the country. It's a national system. It is controlled from St. Kitts. We don't even, control the staff in there. Staff there is paid, even in the Nevis office, from St. Kitts, as far as I'm aware. The technology is as deployed there. So the questions are all excellent questions, but maybe not for me as the Premier of Nevis. I agree with you that we need to modernize that system. So I will say that I agree there. And we need to look at best examples elsewhere. You know, when you mention the UK, that you Google and the UK, you could do certain things this way. We tend to compare to those countries, and absolutely where they have, developments that are good, we must copy them. But I scribbled a note here and said, in the UK they also pay personal income tax, but they don't do it here. So, countries are different and set up differently. So we can't always just cherry pick something from one country. But if it is that we're talking in an age of technology, I agree, there should be no reason why. This thing about the picture list, you say opposition parties, but they don't give them to any of the political parties, as far as I'm aware. As a leader of a political party, we're in government, but we don't get a picture list either. And that is something, again, why? What's the mystery? If Bijan Hanley has registered to vote, then this is his picture next to his name, right? That way we'll know and say, boy, no, that's not Bijan, that's Mr. George. Oh, Mr. George registered as Bijan Hanley. So you're right, it's a mechanism, and I don't see what the issue is in making those lists available. They do produce an annual list, so maybe an annual picture list can be published. I don't see, and other members of the public as well can peruse and scrutinize. So I think the points you're making are all good points, but as I said, I can't take ownership of the electoral office because it's not a NIA matter. We have no control whatsoever over what happens there. You mentioned the SSZ, and you said is a high, I can't remember how you put it, but let me just say that the big issues that we were negotiating, I think that we have fairly got those resolved, right? We are now looking to see whether or not there are any smaller issues that remain outstanding. I do not anticipate that we're going to go into next year still talking about this. And I'll tell you a very practical reason, Mr. Hanley, is that this has taken up a significant amount of cabinet time and government time, right? I mean, putting together all of these consultations with various groups, engaging cabinet sometimes, you know, late into the evening on a Saturday to try and address this. A lot of time has gone into this, and I believe that other issues equally require our attention. So I am not inclined to continue indefinitely having these discussions. It's either that we take a decision or we do not. But going forward, I think that we need to just determine what we're going to do, and we do it. So that's where we are at this point. So I don't anticipate that we're going to go into the new year with all of this chatter still. I mean, when I say chatter, I mean in terms of government and developer. Clearly, members of the public will continue to engage. I anticipate they'll continue to engage for a long time. So we'll have to see how that goes in that front. Anything further for me?
Yes, Mr. Premier, Ms. Budgeon once more, Von Radio. Lastly, seeing that this is the final monthly press conference for 2025, what does the stats show thus far on hotel arrivals for the impending high season? Should we expect a busy season? Thank you.
So I do not have stats because we've not done a sort of round robin, if you will, of the hotels. The Four Seasons did indicate that they had a bit of a sluggish start because the season has started. I did mention the stats on the cruise, that those are up, the numbers are up there. But I don't have the stats on what we can expect. What I was told from the Four Seasons, which as you know is still our flagship, is that booking patterns have changed. So it is very hard even for them to predict sometimes how well they're going to do a month or 2 months out. People are now traveling on the spur of the moment. So a couple may decide on a Thursday, hey, let's go Nevis for the weekend. And that's when they book. So before, you had a long lead time. You could tell a year out, you know, what's this going to look like. With the groups, yes, you can still do that. But for individual travel, family travel, people are booking much shorter booking times now. So the industry has changed, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to forecast. But I'm anticipating a robust season based on all the other indicators, based on the buzz that is out there about Nevis, based on the interest that we are seeing already. I do anticipate, but I don't have statistics to give you today, so I apologize for that. Any other questions?
Elke Hewlett, Department of Information. I have one question. I saw some pictures recently, I think on social media, where some kind of activity is going on at the airport. Can you give us an update on that project? We also have some questions from Glenn Bart from SKN Newsline. Having had the opportunity of several town hall meetings on the proposed Destiny venture, have you had cause to reconsider aspects in the negotiations with the developer based on concerns raised by citizens in the town hall meetings? Please give a few examples if you could. Our laws address access to natural beaches. Is it prudent for laws that will specifically address access to man-made beaches like those that would be developed in Destiny? And again, those last two questions are from Glenn Batt of SKN Newsline. Thank you.
So the second question is easy because a beach is a beach. Whether that beach is created naturally or created by some man-made intervention, the law speaks to beaches, and beaches are defined in terms of what is a beach. I don't have the legal definition, but I know the law defines what is a beach. So the truth is that it really doesn't matter how the beach is created. Once a beach is there, access is guaranteed by law. And that was one of the very early points that we dispelled, if you will, because there was, as you know, a rumor going around that the beaches would somehow be locked off. There are no beaches over there now of any significance, but when you anticipate that, I think the proposal is to create about 4 miles of beach, that beach must be accessible to everyone. So that's easy. Aspects of the renegotiation, absolutely. This project has been the most talked about, the most debated, certainly the project that has seen the most consultation. Those of us who are old enough to know when Four Seasons came, there was nothing close to this level of public engagement for the Four Seasons, which at the time, 35 years ago, was a game changer for Nevis. Right? So why have we had these discussions? Of course, the opposition in Nevis said, oh, it's just window dressing, they already signed the deal and whatever. Clearly, that was nonsense. And so we're having these discussions to try to really get from people, listen, what are your views? Not just about this development, but about development in the island generally. What is it people want to see? And I think it has been very helpful, very, very helpful. For example, one of the things that we had not thought about, but came out in one of the consultations, is if, for example, they were to find oil or gold or diamonds over there, what happens? Who owns that? So that became a point now to negotiate, because that had simply not come up, because we were proceeding on the assumption that there's no oil or gold or diamonds over there, right? So these are the types of issues. They say they're going to use wholly electric vehicles, self-drive cars, and that within their zone. And someone asked the question, well, will they provide training or assist with training for our mechanics, but even our firefighters? Because when those cars, if the batteries catch a fire, is a different type of technology you need to put out that fire. Again, these are things that came from that public consultation, and we could then go back and say, hey, we had not thought about that, but this is a concern. Can the development be done in a phased way? So, for example, rather than you saying, okay, I have 2,400 acres or whatever the target is, right? Let's develop it in phases so that it doesn't appear as if this is a large, massive land in the hands of people and you're not sure what those people are going to do. Let us see. Put differently, put some money where your mouth is. Let us start to see the movement, and then it builds confidence. So you've had various things have come out in the public engagement. How, from the business community, for example, they will not be allowed to set up a bank in there. That is, they will not be allowed to have their own bank inside the zone. So banks have been asking, well, how does that create opportunities for the local banking sector? So can Bank of Nevis, for example, set up something inside of there? You know, that kind of thing. Questions about customs and how the custom zone is going to work. So if they are allowed to bring in goods free of customs charges into the zone, and they bring in televisions and cars and whatever they bring in, how do you control that now? Somebody there just bring it outside the zone, and so somebody in Jessop's or Gingerland now has it. All of those are things that were highlighted from the engagements that we had to look at. And people also raised issues. I remember at one meeting, there was a furor raised about the price that they were paying for land. And this particular speaker tried to create the impression that the people were lowballing in terms of land. So we went and we investigated. I'm pleased to say that is not true. On every occasion that the people have bought land, they've paid at market or above market. That is what the offer has been. So nobody has been prejudiced in terms of saying that their price on their land was somehow depressed. In fact, one particular person has been very vocal. I'm told that they had a valuation done on their land, and the price that was offered to them was more than their valuation. So we just have to be careful. I think that what is happening on the island, there are some people who are just bent on mischief, and who are, I mean, a couple of days ago I saw online somebody saying that I am selling out all the land on the South Coast. People are still saying it because that was one of the original lies that was told and that took hold and was circulating like wildfire, that the government was selling off thousands of acres of land. When it turned out that the government actually didn't have land, but these were private lands, then I thought that that would have stopped, but as I said just a few days ago. So it depends sometimes on who people listen to, who they talk to, who they get the information from, and we're just going to have to press on, and press on with not just that, but any other development that comes, to have a discussion with the developers in a meaningful and conscientious way, but always being reminded that we work for the people of Nevis. Anything further for me? Oh, the airport, yes. The airport project, we had hoped to have a groundbreaking this month. That turned out not to be possible. It doesn't make any sense now us talking about groundbreaking this year, so we'd like it to go into early next year. We are finalizing the purchase of lands. That has taken an inordinate amount of time, unfortunately, but that is still ongoing. And in the interim, we've started the activity, because what you saw with the the drills that were there was we were taking some samples. So they need to do earth samples on the runway and the surrounding lands. I guess that has to do with the technical aspects of the engineering that has to go into the new runway. Because remember, it has to be shored up, reinforced to ensure that it can take the bigger aircraft that we anticipate coming. So that work has already started, sort of those design and preliminary engineering type works. But the full-fledged construction has not yet started because, as I said, we're still going through pockets of land acquisition. The process is in train, just that the process is taking a while. Any other thing for me, Mr. George? Yes?
Well done, George. Observer again. Mr. Premier, the Prime Minister has stated that he hasn't seen any proposal from Nevis concerning the proposed land development on the south. Can you give us an update on that, please?
I don't know what the Prime Minister has or has not seen. I can't speak for him, but I can tell you that we have not sent anything to the Prime Minister. Recall, Mr. George, the way that the SSD legislation is set up. If it's a development in Nevis, it has to come first to the Cabinet in Nevis. We have to take a decision on it as to whether or not we agree, and only then does it go to SINKITS, to the Federal Cabinet. So the Prime Minister may well be correct that he has not seen anything, because I know we have not sent anything to him. So I can confirm that the NIA has not transmitted any agreement or any proposal to the federal government at this stage, because when we got the proposal, we took a particular position on it that we would consult. So we have been out there talking to people about it. So as I speak to you today, we have not yet signed off as a cabinet in Nevis. And only when we do that does it then go to SINKITS. So he may well be very accurate, right? He's accurate that we have not sent him anything, and he may well be accurate that he has not seen anything, because unless somebody has shared a copy with him, but he has not had any official communication from us as yet. We had to complete our process, and only when our process is complete can we then send over to him for he and his cabinet to undertake their process over there. But of course, it's a Nevis project, so a lot of that effort was concentrated in Nevis to get the opinion and impression of the Nevisian people on the matter. Sure.
Yesterday, Mr. Johnson mentioned that you and him didn't have any discussions concerning the geothermal. But I remember some time back in your press conference and some shows back, you mentioned that you have approached them to help you help in the terms of developing the geothermal, the hospital, and other projects. Can you tell us if they fund the hospital, what will happen? Because part of the law says that they are required to have their own health care in the zone.
No. No, that's not strictly accurate. They can have their own health care, but I think what the law mandates has to do with electricity, has to do with water, and has to do with waste disposal. That's my recollection. Healthcare they had proposed, and they will have healthcare in the zone, because based on the proposal they have. What we were trying to avoid is them doing a hospital in the zone. But we said, since we have this hospital here, why not let us develop this one together to serve everybody? People in the zone and people outside the zone, to serve everybody in Nevis. Right?
Okay. So sometimes, like when private individuals partnerize with the government, they normally seek to privatize the entity that they fund. Would that be possible in Nevis?
So the short answer is no. In the context of our hospital, we're not looking at any privatization. These funds, remember, they're providing funding, but they're not becoming owner. You understand? So the mechanism for funding is that they will provide some funding, but they're not taking any ownership in our hospital. So that's an important distinction. The hospital remains the property of the people of Nevis, right? Just as the airport is going to remain the property of the people of Nevis, even though we have funding that is provided for the airport. I don't know what Mr. Jensen said. I unfortunately did not get an opportunity to listen. to an interview. He did an interview yesterday. But if he said that he and I have not had a discussion on geothermal, he is probably correct on that, because we've not had any detailed engagements on the issue of geothermal. Where the issue of geothermal came up is in relation to their statutory requirement that up to 70% of their power has to be renewable. And if you look at the slides that we created for that, we have said to them, listen, there's an opportunity for investment in bringing geothermal to market for your benefit. Now remember, part of the difficulty that we were experiencing with geothermal is that Nevis has the capacity for significantly more power than we can use. And that was creating a problem in the sense that if you produce 100 megawatts of power, what do you do with it? So that kind of development will be a huge help, because it will mean that we have now not only to send power to St. Kitts, which is already agreed, but also large developments like those that we can power up as well from geothermal. So it makes the geothermal project more viable. It makes the airport project more viable. It makes a lot of these massive investments that we're making, hospital, etc., more viable, because you now have more people that you can service from that. So the issue about geothermal and their involvement in geothermal has come about because of the need for them to provide up to 70% of their power through renewable means. I will say that whilst Mr. Jensen and I have not had a discussion about geothermal, one of his main persons in his group, a chap called Graham Brooks, in fact, my first meeting with Graham Brooks was about geothermal. This was long before I heard anything about any project. The first meeting was about geothermal. And at the time, I didn't know anything about Mr. Jensen. I only met Mr. Jensen, I think it was last year, for the first time. In fact, I've only met him once, right? So I knew nothing about him, but I did meet with Graham Brooks, who I now know works alongside Mr. Jensen. So we have to again understand that sometimes, Mr. George, in discussions and negotiations, you may come and you say you would like to have a meeting with the Premier and you want to discuss geothermal, just trying to reference. We have that discussion, but I do not know that you are working with Mr. Daniel. You may well be somebody who's going out to collect information. So you come and you get that information. So Mr. Daniel may well say he never met with me on this matter, which is true, but you would have met with me and you work with Mr. Daniel. So I didn't hear what he said, but I'm just explaining that I have not had a discussion with him about geothermal per se, but people in his team, like Mr. Brooks, has met and spoken about it, and the issue has come up now on this whole idea of whether or not we can make geothermal energy available to them. And if the answer to that is yes, then the other question is, well, can you help us to extract that geothermal so that you can benefit from it? So that really is where we are on that. Having said that, we're not really looking in a steadfast way in that direction for geothermal, because as I said, through the cooperation with the Prime Minister, we've developed some lines of support, financial support. We have CDB money, we have GCF Green Climate Fund money, and we have Saudi money. That's all going into a pool to help us to move this project forward. So we may not need the involvement of anybody else. I say may because I'm not sure. It really depends on how big a project we end up doing. But that would be my response to you on that. Anything further for me? Good. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been with me all year. Thank you very much. 11 months. We have done this every single month, and I'm very grateful to you, the members of the press. I think it has been a fun engagement. If Mr. Daniel was not, so averse to spending government money, he should have had some little reception for members of the press to say thank you. But I'm very grateful that you've come, and that you've come on a monthly basis. Thank you, and I trust and hope that the information provided is of use. I won't have this opportunity again, so I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you to NTV. Stuart, you're on the team. Thank you for all that you've done. Every month you're here with me, and I'm very grateful for that. And we look forward to the budget debates in the coming weeks, both in Nevis and St. Kitts. And I wish everyone a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year when it comes. Thank you.